The space station called Hollow Point floated in the dark space between two dead planets. It was not on any official map. No government claimed it. No laws protected anyone who stepped inside its rusted walls. This was a place where criminals came to hide, where slaves were bought and sold, and where blood was spilled for entertainment. Ambassador of the Empire did not want to be here. Her pale blue skin felt dirty just from breathing the recycled air. Her 4 eyes moved constantly, watching the crowds of aliens that pushed and shoved through the narrow corridors. She pulled her hood lower over her face and tried to look small. "My lady, we should not stay long," her aide whispered. His name was, and he was old and wise and very worried. "This place is dangerous." "I know," said, "but the information we need is here. The slave traders who took our people came through this station. We must find them." Nodded, but his 3-fingered hands shook with fear. They were not warriors. They were diplomats and scholars. They solved problems with words, not weapons. A place like Hollow Point was their worst nightmare. The corridor opened into a massive chamber. Stopped walking and stared. The chamber was shaped like a bowl, with hundreds of seats rising up on all sides. In the center was a pit made of dark metal and stained with old blood. Creatures of all shapes and sizes filled the seats, screaming and waving their arms. The smell of sweat and alcohol and something rotten filled the air. "What is this place?" asked. "The pit," said, his voice heavy with disgust. "They force prisoners to fight here, sometimes against each other, sometimes against beasts. The crowds bet on who will die." Felt sick. She had heard stories about such places, but seeing it was different. The cruelty was real. The excitement in the crowd was real. These beings enjoyed watching others suffer. "We should go around," said, "find another path." But before could answer, a loud horn blew. The crowd went wild, stomping their feet and banging on the metal railings. A gate on one side of the pit opened and guards dragged out a prisoner. His breath caught in her throat. The prisoner was human. She had never seen a human in person before. Her people had only made contact with Earth a few years ago, and humans rarely traveled this far from their home system. But she had studied them. She knew their history, their wars, their strange mix of kindness and violence. This human was male. He was not very tall, maybe average height for his species. His hair was black and messy, falling over his forehead. His skin was tan, marked with cuts and bruises. He wore only torn pants, and she could see the muscles of his chest and arms. They had clearly not been feeding him well, but he was still strong, still dangerous. But what struck most were his eyes. They were dark brown, almost black, and they held no fear. He looked at the screaming crowd like they were nothing, like they were insects making noise. "A human," whispered. "I have heard they are resilient, but surely one human cannot survive the pit." The guards threw the human into the center of the arena. He stumbled but did not fall. He stood up straight and looked around, studying the walls, the gates, the guards. He was thinking, planning. A large alien with scales and too many teeth stepped to the edge of the pit. He wore expensive clothes and gold rings on every finger. This was the owner of the pit, a crime lord named. "Welcome, welcome," shouted, and the crowd cheered. "Tonight we have something special, a human, fresh from the cargo ships." The crowd laughed and jeered. Someone threw a bottle at the human. He did not move, and it shattered on the ground beside him. "Humans think they are so special," continued. "They think they are the greatest species in the galaxy. Let us see how great this one is." Another gate opened. Something moved in the darkness beyond it, something big. Leaned forward, trying to see. Then the creature stepped into the light and she gasped. It was a thornback, a beast from the jungle planets of the outer rim. It stood on 4 legs, each one thick as a tree trunk. Its body was covered in hard plates of natural armor, and long spines grew from its back. Its mouth was full of teeth the size of daggers. It was bred for one purpose: to kill. The crowd went insane with excitement. They knew what was coming. They knew the human would die. But the human did not run. He did not scream. He just watched the thornback with those calm, dark eyes. "He is going to die," said. "We should not watch this." Did not move, she could not look away. Something about the human held her attention. The way he stood, the way he breathed, slow and steady like he was preparing for something. A guard threw a weapon into the pit. It was not a gun or a blade. It was just a metal pipe, bent and rusted. The crowd laughed again. They were giving the human a toy to fight a monster. The human picked up the pipe. He tested its weight in his hands. He swung it once, twice. Then he nodded like it would do. The thornback roared and charged. Expected the human to run. Any sane creature would run, but he did not. He stood his ground, watching the beast come closer. 50 meters, 40, 30. At the last moment, the human moved. He was fast, faster than expected. He dove to the side, rolling under the thornback's snapping jaws. As he rolled, he swung the pipe up and hit the beast in its softest spot, right under its front leg. The thornback screamed in pain and stumbled. Its leg buckled, and it crashed to the ground. The crowd went silent, stared with all four eyes wide open. He had heard it. With a rusty pipe, he had heard a thornback. The human did not celebrate. He did not waste time. He jumped onto the beast's back, dodging the spines, and brought the pipe down on the base of its skull. Once, twice, 3 times. The thornback stopped moving. For a long moment, no one made a sound. The human stood on top of the dead beast, breathing hard, his body covered in the creature's green blood. He looked up at the crowd, and there was something in his eyes now. Not fear, not anger, just cold determination. Then started to laugh. It was a mean, ugly sound. "Lucky," he shouted. "That was just luck. Let us see how lucky he really is." 3 more gates opened. More creatures came out. A pack of razor hounds, thin and fast with claws like knives. A sand, long and covered in rough scales. And another thornback, even bigger than the first. The crowd cheered again. Now the human would die for sure. No one could fight all of these at once. The human looked at the creatures surrounding him. He was alone. He had only a bent pipe. He was hurt and tired and far from home. He smiled. It was a small smile, just a little curve of his lips, but saw it, and a chill ran down her spine. That was not the smile of a man about to die. That was the smile of someone who had been waiting for this. Someone who wanted this. The razor hounds attacked first. They were fast, spreading out to come at him from all sides. The human did not try to run. He charged straight at the closest one, surprising it. His pipe caught it across the skull, and it went down. He grabbed its body and threw it at the second hound, knocking it off balance. The third one jumped at his back, but he spun and kicked it in the chest, sending it flying. The sand came next, its body coiling and striking like a snake. The human jumped over its first attack, landed on its back, and drove the pipe through one of its eyes. The thrashed and screamed, throwing him off. He hit the ground hard but rolled back to his feet immediately. The second thornback charged. This one was smarter than the first. It did not rush blindly. It circled, looking for an opening. The human circled too, keeping his eyes on all the enemies around him. The remaining razor hounds attacked again. He killed one with a strike to its throat. The other he caught by its front legs and used its body as a shield when the thornback finally charged. The beast's horn went through the hound instead of the human. Now it was just him and the thornback. The crowd was no longer cheering. They were not laughing anymore. They watched in silence, their eyes wide, their mouths open. Some of them looked scared. Understood why. This was not a fight. This was a demonstration. The human was showing them what he could do. The thornback pulled its horn free and roared. The human roared back. It was a strange sound coming from such a small creature, but there was something primal in it, something ancient, the sound of a predator. They charged at each other. The fight was brutal and fast. The human took hits. The thornback's claws opened cuts on his arms and chest, But he kept moving, kept fighting. He found the weak spots, the joints, the eyes, the soft skin under the armor. Finally, the thornback fell. It crashed to the ground and it did not get up. The human stood alone in the middle of the pit. Bodies surrounded him. Blood covered him. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. The pipe in his hand was bent almost in half now, useless. He looked up there was no smile now, just those cold, dark eyes. "More," the human said. His voice was quiet, but somehow everyone heard it. "Send more." Felt something she had never felt before. A mix of fear and respect and something else she could not name. She had studied humans. She thought she understood them, but this was something different. She turned too. Her aide was shaking, his blue skin pale with shock. "My lady," he whispered, "what is he?" Did not answer right away. She looked back at the human standing alone in that pit of death. She thought about what she knew of humans, their history of war, their strange loyalty to each other, the way they could be so gentle and so violent at the same time. She thought about how he fought, not like someone trying to survive, like someone protecting something, someone fighting for a reason. "He must be hers," whispered. Looked confused. "My lady." "Someone owns his heart," said softly. "A mother, a sister, a lover. Someone is waiting for him, someone he would burn the galaxy to return to." She watched the human stand tall despite his wounds. No one fights like that for themselves. He is fighting to live because someone needs him to live. Down in the pit, the human waited. His enemies were dead, but he was not done. He would never be done. Not until he was free, not until he could go home. "Made a decision," she said. "Find out who he is, find out why he is here." "My lady, we should not get involved. Our mission." "Our mission can wait," said. "I want to know his story." She looked at the human one more time. He was just standing there, waiting for the next fight, the next challenge, ready to face whatever came. She did not know it yet, but this human would change everything. His name was Ho, and his story was only beginning. The pit was quiet now. The crowd stared at the human standing among the bodies of dead beasts. No one spoke. No one moved. The only sound was the heavy breathing of the man covered in blood that was not his own. The crime lord gripped the railing so hard that his golden rings dug into his scaled fingers. His yellow eyes were wide with shock and anger. This was not supposed to happen. The human was supposed to die. That was the entertainment. That was why people paid. Hal whispered, then louder, "How?" His guards did not answer. They had no answer to give. They had watched the same thing everyone else watched. A single human had killed 5 deadly creatures with nothing but a rusty pipe. It should have been impossible. But impossibility did not seem to apply to this human. In the crowd, Ambassador leaned forward in her seat. Her 4 eyes studied every detail of the man in the pit. The way he held his broken weapon. The way his body was tense but controlled. The wounds on his arms and chest were bleeding, but he did not seem to notice them. Or maybe he just did not care. She said quietly, "What do you know about human pain tolerance?" Her aide swallowed nervously. "The records say they feel pain like any other species, my lady, but they have a strange ability to ignore it when they choose to. Their bodies can produce chemicals that block pain signals." "When they choose to," repeated. "He is choosing this." Down in the pit, Ho rolled his shoulders and stretched his neck. His muscles ached, his wounds burned, but he pushed all of that away. Pain was a message, and right now he did not have time to read it. Right now he needed to survive. He thought about his little sister. The image of her face was clear in his mind, her smile, her laugh, the way she used to call his name when she was scared. She was here somewhere on this station, locked in a cell, sick and alone. He had to get back to her. He had promised. So he would survive, no matter what they sent. Finally found his voice. He stood up and raised his hands to quiet the crowd, though no one was making much noise anymore. "Well, well," said, forcing a laugh that sounded wrong. "It seems our human is stronger than we thought, but the night is young, my friends. Let us see how long this luck can last." A new gate opened. This time the creature that came out walked on two legs. It was big, nearly 3 meters tall, with thick gray skin and arms as wide as the human's whole body. Its face was flat and brutal, with small eyes and a mouth full of yellow teeth. It carried a massive club made of metal and bone. The crowd gasped. This was a Goral, a species known for only one thing: violence. They were not smart. They could not build ships or use technology, but they were strong, incredibly strong. One Goral had been recorded lifting a ground vehicle and throwing it like a toy. "Now this will be good," someone in the crowd muttered. "No one can survive a Goral." Ho looked at the new enemy. He looked at his bent pipe. He threw the pipe away. It was useless now anyway. The Goral grunted and stepped forward. Its small eyes focused on the human with dull hatred. To the Goral, everything smaller than itself was either food or something to destroy. Ho moved first. He ran straight at the Goral. The crowd gasped again. What was he doing? Was he trying to die? The Goral swung its club. The weapon was huge, big enough to crush a human completely, but it was also slow. Ho dropped to his knees and slid under the swing. The club passed over his head close enough to move his hair. He came up behind the Goral and jumped onto its back. His hands grabbed the creature's ears, and he pulled himself up until he was sitting on its shoulders. The Goral roared and reached back, trying to grab him, but its arms were too thick, its body too bulky. It could not reach. Ho wrapped his legs around the Goral's neck. Then he squeezed. The crowd watched in disbelief. The human was trying to choke a Goral. The creatures had necks like tree trunks. It could not work. It was impossible. But Ho was not squeezing the neck. He was pressing on the blood vessels on either side. He had learned this in the military back on Earth. It did not matter how strong something was. If blood could not reach its brain, it would fall. The Goral stumbled. Its roars became weaker. It swung its arms wildly, hitting nothing. Its movements became slower, clumsier. Finally, its eyes rolled back and it collapsed forward. Ho jumped free before he could be crushed. He landed in a crouch and watched the Goral hit the ground. It was not dead, just unconscious, but he knew it would not wake up for a long time. The silence in the arena was heavy now, could feel it pressing down on everyone. The crowd had come to see blood and death. They had come to watch a human die for their amusement. Instead, they had watched a human defeat every enemy sent against him. And he did not even look afraid. His face had changed color. His scales were darker now, flushed with rage. He turned to his guards and shouted orders that could not hear. The guards ran to do as they were told. "He is angry," whispered. "The crime lord. He is losing face in front of his customers." "Good," said. "An angry person makes mistakes." But she was worried too. Angry people also became cruel, would not stop now. He would keep sending enemies until the human finally fell. The next gate opened. 2 creatures came out this time. They were a species that knew well, tall and thin with long limbs and silver skin. They moved like dancers, graceful and beautiful, but their hands ended in claws that could cut through metal, and unlike the other creatures, were smart. They worked together. They planned. These 2 were clearly trained fighters. They separated immediately, moving to opposite sides of the pit. They would attack from 2 directions at once. No matter how fast the human was, he could not face both at the same time. Ho watched them move. He was breathing harder now. The fights were taking their toll. His arms felt heavy, his legs burned, but he could not stop, needed him. They attacked together. They were fast, faster than anything he had faced before. Their claws cut through the air in patterns too quick to follow. Ho fell back, dodging and blocking with his arms. New cuts appeared on his skin. Blood ran down his hands. But he was learning them. Every species had patterns. Every fighter had habits. These like to attack high, going for the throat and eyes. They expected their prey to protect its head. So Ho stopped protecting his head. He dropped his guard and charged forward. The first claws cut his shoulder, deep and painful, but now Ho was inside its reach, too close for it to use those long arms effectively. He grabbed by its thin waist and lifted it off the ground. The creature hissed and scratched at him, but he ignored the pain. He spun and threw at its partner. They collided and went down in a tangle of limbs. Ho did not give them time to recover. He jumped on the pile and started hitting. His fists struck again and again. He did not fight with style or technique now. He fought with raw violence, the kind that every human carried inside them, the kind that their ancestors used to survive on a brutal world full of predators. When he stood up, both were still. One was clearly dead. The other was unconscious, maybe dying. Ho did not check. He turned to face again. His body was covered in wounds. Blood dripped from dozens of cuts. He swayed slightly on his feet, but his eyes were still the same, cold, determined, unbroken. "More," he said again, that same quiet voice that everyone could hear. "Send more." Felt something warm spread through her chest. It took her a moment to identify the emotion. It was admiration, pure, powerful admiration. She had met many species in her work as an ambassador. She had studied their histories and cultures. She thought she understood what made each species unique. They had their wisdom, they had their technology, they had their numbers. But humans had something else, something she was only now beginning to understand. They did not give up. They did not accept defeat. Even when everything was against them, even when any rational being would surrender, humans kept fighting. And this one human was showing that truth to everyone here. The crowd was changing. The bloodlust was fading from their eyes. Some of them looked uncomfortable. Others looked scared. A few were even leaning forward with something like respect on their faces. They had come to watch a human die. Instead, they were watching something rare. A spirit that would not break. Saw the change too. His anger grew hotter. He shouted more orders. Guards ran in different directions. More gates were prepared. "This ends now," roared. "Open all the gates, release everything." Grabbed his arm. "My lady, we should leave. This is going to become very dangerous." But shook off his hand. "I am not going anywhere." All around the pit, gates began to open. One after another, creatures of all kinds poured out. More razor hounds, another goral, something with too many legs and too many teeth that did not even recognize. A total of 15 enemies, all entering the pit at once. The crowd went wild. This was what they wanted. This was the finale. No one could survive this. Ho looked at the army of creatures surrounding him. 15 enemies. He had no weapon. He was wounded and tired. He laughed. It was a strange sound in that place of death. A real laugh, not cruel or desperate. It was the laugh of someone who had accepted something, someone who had made peace with whatever was coming. "Okay," he said softly to himself. "Okay, I will try." He picked up a claw that had broken off one of the dead. It was about the length of his forearm, curved and sharp. Not much of a weapon against 15 enemies, but it was something. The creatures attacked. What followed was chaos, could barely follow the movement. The human was a blur, spinning and dodging and striking. He did not try to kill them all. He could not. Instead, he used them against each other. He ducked under attacks so that the creatures hit their allies. He led them into each other's paths. He turned their numbers from an advantage into a problem. It was not elegant. It was desperate and brutal and bloody. The human took hits that should have killed him. Claws and teeth found his flesh again and again, but somehow he kept moving. Somehow he kept fighting. One by one, the creatures fell. Some killed by him, some killed by each other in the confusion. The number dropped from 15 to 12 to 10 to 7. Ho was barely standing now. His body was more red than any other color. One of his arms hung loose at his side, maybe broken. His breath came in ragged gasps that might have been sobs. But he did not stop. 7 became 5. 5 became 3. 3 became 1, a wounded Goral swinging blindly at the red ghost that kept hurting it. Ho dodged one more swing. He climbed the Goral's body one more time. He pressed on those blood vessels one more time. The Goral fell. The pit was silent except for the sound of Ho's breathing. He stood among the bodies, the only thing left alive in that circle of death. His legs shook. His vision blurred, but he was still standing. He looked up at. The crime lord's face was twisted with disbelief and fury. More, Ho whispered, but this time his voice cracked. This time everyone could hear how much those words cost him. Stood up, she did not plan to. Her body moved on its own. Enough, she said. Her voice was not loud, but it carried. The authority of the Empire was in that single word. Heads turned toward her. Yellow eyes found her face, and recognition flickered in them. He knew who she was. He knew what the Empire could do to a place like Hollow Point if they chose to. Ambassador said carefully, "This is not your concern." "I am making it my concern," said. "This fight is over. The human has won." "He has won nothing. He is my property. He fights until I say he stops." Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Property? Interesting. The Galactic Council has very specific rules about slavery, Lord, very specific punishments too. Scales went pale. The Council has no authority here. "The Council has authority everywhere," said, "and I have a very good memory for faces, and ships, and transaction records." The threat hung in the air, understood it perfectly. If reported what she had seen here, his entire operation could be destroyed. But was not done. "I want the human," she said, "and whatever else you are keeping from me, we will discuss the price." His face twisted, but he was a businessman above all else. He knew when to fight and when to deal. "Fine," he spat, "take the human, we will talk." Nodded and turned to, "Go get him, bring him somewhere safe." As her aide hurried away, looked down at Ho one more time. The human had collapsed to his knees now. His fight was over. His body was finally giving in to everything it had endured. But even on his knees, even broken and bloody, there was something magnificent about him, something that made his heart beat faster. She thought about the words she had whispered earlier. He must be hers. Someone owned his heart. Someone was waiting for him. Now she would find out who. And then she would help him get back to them. Because that was what humans deserved. After fighting so hard, after refusing to break, they deserved to go home. They all did. Ho woke up in pain. Every part of his body screamed at him. His arms, his legs, his chest, his head, even breathing hurt. For a moment, he did not know where he was. The last thing he remembered was standing in the pit, surrounded by bodies, waiting for the next wave of enemies. But the enemies never came. Someone had spoken, a woman's voice, strong and cold, and then nothing. He opened his eyes slowly. The light was soft, not the harsh brightness of the pit. He was lying on something comfortable, not the hard metal floor he had grown used to. Medical equipment beeped quietly nearby. "You are awake." The voice came from his right. Ho turned his head, which sent fresh waves of pain through his skull. A figure sat in a chair beside his bed. Blue skin, 4 eyes, pale robes that looked expensive. He remembered seeing her in the crowd, one of the watchers, one of the people who paid to see others die. Ho's hands clenched into fists, but he was too weak to do anything more. "Relax," the blue woman said. "I am not your enemy. My name is, I am an ambassador of the Empire." "Where am I?" Ho's voice came out rough and broken. His throat felt like sandpaper. "A medical ship, my medical ship," leaned forward slightly. "You have been unconscious for 2 days. The doctors say it is a miracle you are alive at all. Your body was," she paused, searching for the right word, "damaged." The name came out before Ho could think. My sister, where is my sister? His 4 eyes blinked. Your sister. Ho tried to sit up. His body screamed in protest, but he pushed through it. Strong hands held him down, and he realized there was another person in the room. The old blue man who had been with the ambassador. Please do not move, the old one said. You will open your wounds. I need to find my sister. Ho's voice cracked with desperation. She is sick, they have her, I have to. Stop, his voice was calm but firm. Tell me about your sister, tell me everything. Ho looked at the ambassador. He did not trust her. He did not trust anyone on the station. But he was weak and alone and had no other options. Her name is, he said slowly. She is 19 years old. We were traveling together on a transport ship when pirates attacked. They killed most of the passengers, took the rest of us as slaves. The memories were painful. The attack had happened so fast. One moment they were eating dinner in the ship's cafeteria, laughing about something stupid. The next moment, alarms were screaming and people were dying. Was hurt in the attack, a wound to her stomach. It got infected. Ho's jaw tightened. The slavers did not care. They threw us in cages like animals. When we got to this station, they put me in the pit. They put her somewhere else. They said if I fought, if I won, they would give her medicine. And you believed them? Asked quietly. I had no choice. Ho's eyes met hers. She is my sister, my only family. Our parents died when we were young. I raised her. I protected her. I promised I would always keep her safe. His voice broke on the last word. He looked away, ashamed of his weakness. Was silent for a long moment. Then she turned to her aide. Find her. The old man nodded. Yes, my lady. He left the room quickly, turned back to Ho. We will find your sister, she said. If she is on the station, we will find her. Why? Ho asked. Why are you helping me? You do not know me. I am nothing to you. Considered the question carefully. She could give him a political answer. She could tell him about her mission, about the citizens who had also been taken by slavers. She could explain that helping him was useful for her investigation. But those were not the real reasons. I watched you fight, she said finally, in the pit. I saw you face death again and again, and I saw that you were not afraid. No, that is not right, she shook her head. You were afraid, but you fought anyway. You refused to break. Ho said nothing. I have met many species in my work, continued. I have studied their cultures and their histories. I thought I understood strength, though with their armies, though with their technology, though with their rage. She paused. But watching you, I saw something different, something I had only read about in books. What? Human endurance. Spoke the words carefully like they were precious. The ability to keep going when all logic says you should stop. The willingness to suffer for something you love. Her 4 eyes looked into his 2. You fought like someone with a reason, not for glory or revenge or survival. You fought for her, your sister. Ho's throat tightened. He could not speak. That is why I am helping you, said simply. Because that kind of love deserves to be rewarded. Because someone who fights that hard for family should not die in a pit for the entertainment of criminals. A tear escaped from Ho's eye. He wiped it away quickly, embarrassed, but pretended not to notice. Rest now, she said, standing up. You need to heal. When we find your sister, you will want to be strong for her. She walked to the door but stopped before leaving. Ho, she said his name carefully like she was tasting it. It is a good name. What does it mean? Big and strong, he said quietly. My father chose it. He said I would need to be big and strong to protect my sister. Smiled. It was the first real smile she had given since meeting him. Your father was wise. Then she was gone. Ho lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. His body hurt. His heart hurt worse. But for the first time since the pirates attacked, he felt something other than despair. Hope. Maybe this strange blue woman would keep her word. Maybe she would find. Maybe everything would be okay. He closed his eyes and let himself rest. Walked through the corridors of her ship, her mind racing. The human story had confirmed what she suspected. He was not fighting for himself. He was fighting for someone he loved. That was why he had been so impossible to break. Humans were strange creatures. Physically, they were not special. Average strength, average speed, average senses. In a galaxy full of species with claws and armor and poison, humans were remarkably fragile. But their minds, their hearts, those were different. Had studied the human wars, the conflicts that had shaped their planet before they reached the stars. She had read about soldiers who threw themselves on explosives to save their friends, parents who lifted vehicles to save their children, ordinary people who walked into fire to rescue strangers. At first, she had thought these stories were exaggerations, propaganda. No species could really be that devoted to each other. But watching Ho in that pit, she understood. The stories were true, all of them. Humans could push past their physical limits when they had a reason. They could ignore pain and fear and exhaustion. They could become something more than what their biology allowed. And the reason was almost always love. My lady looked up, was hurrying toward her, his old face creased with concern. Did you find the sister? Asked. I found where she is being held, said, but there is a problem. Tell me. She is in personal compound, the medical wing. It seems he has been keeping her alive barely as leverage against the human. His jaw tightened, so he never planned to actually save her. No, my lady, the infection has spread. The doctors say she only has a few days left, without proper treatment. Did not finish the sentence. A few days. Ho's sister was dying, and the man who held her was the same man Ho had humiliated in front of his entire crowd. Would never let her go, not willingly. He would let her die just to hurt the human who had made him look weak. We need to get her out, said. My lady, that would be an act of aggression. If we attack's compound. I did not say attack. 4 eyes narrowed as she thought. Is a businessman. He cares about money and power and reputation. The human damaged his reputation tonight, but perhaps there is a way to give him something he wants more than revenge. What could be worth more than that? Smiled coldly. Protection operates outside the law, but even outlaws have enemies. What if the Empire offered him certain guarantees in exchange for certain property? Understood, a deal. We give him protection from his competitors. He gives us the girl. And the human, both of them, free and clear. It could work, admitted. But the Empire will not be happy. We would be making promises to a criminal. The Empire does not need to know the details. Started walking faster. Contact, tell him I want to meet, tonight. And if he refuses? Stopped walking. When she spoke, her voice was hard as steel. Then I will remind him what happens to criminals who anger the Empire. We may be diplomats, but we have warships too, hundreds of them, and I have the authority to call them here. Bowed his head. Yes, my lady. He hurried away to make the call. Stood alone in the corridor, thinking about what she was doing. She was risking her career, maybe her life, for a human she had just met and his dying sister. Why? She thought about the pit again. The way Ho had stood among the dead, broken and bleeding, and asked for more. The way his eyes had burned with determination even when his body was failing. She thought about his words. She is my sister, my only family. Had no family. They did not believe in such bonds. They raised their children in groups, mixing genetics and minimizing individual connections. It was efficient, logical. It produced excellent diplomats and scholars who were not distracted by emotional attachments. But watching Ho, wondered if they had lost something important. That fierce love, that willingness to die for another person. It was irrational, inefficient, and it was beautiful. She wanted to protect it. She wanted to see Ho reunited with his sister. She wanted to watch his face when he held her again, when he knew she was safe. It was an emotional decision, unworthy of ambassador. She did not care. 2 hours later, sat across from in a private room. The crime lord was still angry. She could see it in the tightness of his scales. But he was also curious. Why would an ambassador want to meet with him? "Let us skip the pleasantries," said. "You have something I want. A human female named I am prepared to pay for her." Laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "The human sister, why would I sell her? She is the only thing keeping that animal from trying to escape. The human is on my ship. He is under my protection now. He will not be fighting in your pit anymore." "Then the girl is worthless to me," said, spreading his hands. "She can die for all I care." "She could," nodded calmly. "But that would be a waste. I am offering you something valuable, something you need." "And what is that?" "The Empire's friendship." Went very still. His yellow eyes studied his face, looking for lies. "You have enemies," continued. "The Syndicate wants your territory. The Red Hand wants your trade routes. And there are rumors that the Galactic Council is investigating this station. Any one of those problems could destroy you." "I can handle my problems." "Can you?" Alone smiled thinly. "What if you had friends, powerful friends who could make your enemies think twice, friends who could lose certain investigation files?" Leaned forward. "You are offering me protection." "I am offering you survival." Placed a data chip on the table. "This contains the terms of our agreement. It is very simple. You give me the human girl, alive and receiving treatment. In return, you receive certain guarantees from the Empire. Nothing official, of course, but enough to keep you in business." Stared at the chip for a long moment, then he picked it up. "You are not like other," he said slowly. "They do not make deals with people like me." "I am not like other," agreed. "So, do we have an agreement?" Was quiet. Could see him calculating, weighing his revenge against his survival. It was not a difficult choice, not really. Was a survivor. He had not built his empire by letting emotions control him. "Fine," he said finally. "Take the girl, but know this, ambassador. If you break this deal, if the Empire does not keep its promises, I will find ways to make you regret it." "I have no doubt," stood up. "The girl now." Nodded to his guards. "Bring her to the ambassador's ship." As left the room, she allowed herself a small smile. She had done it. She had saved them both. Ho and his sister would be free. The reunion was going to be worth seeing. The doors to the medical bay slid open, and two of his guards carried a stretcher inside. On the stretcher lay a young woman, thin and pale, her black hair spread around her face like a dark halo. Tubes and wires connected her to portable machines that beeped with weak but steady rhythms. Ho tried to stand when he saw her. His body protested, his wounds screaming, but he ignored them. He pushed off the bed and stumbled toward the stretcher, his legs shaking with every step. He whispered. He reached her side and fell to his knees. His hands trembled as he touched her face so gently, like she might break. Her skin was hot with fever. Her breathing was shallow, but she was alive. She was here. "It is me. It is Ho. I am here." Her eyes fluttered. For a moment nothing happened. Then slowly her eyelids opened. Her eyes were the same deep brown as his, tired and cloudy with sickness, but they focused on his face. "Ho," her voice was barely a whisper. "Is it really you?" "Yes, yes, it is me." Tears ran down his face and he did not try to stop them. "I am here. I found you. You are safe now." A small smile touched cracked lips. "I knew you would come. I knew you would find me." "Always," Ho said, his voice breaking. "I will always find you, I promised." He took her hand in his and held it tight. Her fingers were so thin, so weak. But she squeezed back just a little, and that small pressure meant everything. Watched from the doorway, her 4 eyes soft with emotion. Behind her stood silently, his old face showing rare feeling. "The doctors need to work on her," said gently. "She needs surgery, treatment. It will take hours." Ho did not look up. "I am not leaving her," You do not have to leave, but you need to let the doctors help. Walked closer and put a hand on his shoulder. She is strong, I can see it. She will survive this. Ho finally looked at the ambassador. His eyes were red, his face wet with tears, but there was something else there too. Gratitude so deep it had no words. Thank you, he said. I do not know why you helped us, but thank you. Smiled, I told you, some things deserve to be protected. Now come, let the doctors work. You can sit just outside the door. It took every ounce of Ho's will to let go of his sister's hand, but he did it. He let the doctors take her, let them wheel her into the surgical room where they would try to save her life. Then he collapsed into a chair outside the door and put his face in his hands. Sat beside him. For a while, neither of them spoke. The only sounds were the quiet beeping of medical equipment and the distant hum of the ship's engines. Tell me about her, said finally. Tell me about. Ho lifted his head. His eyes were distant, looking at something far away. She was born during a storm, he said quietly. The worst storm our city had seen in 50 years. The hospitals were full, the roads were flooded. Our mother almost did not make it to the delivery room in time. He smiled at the memory, a sad smile full of love. Our father always said that was why she was so strong. She came into the world fighting. She never stopped. She sounds remarkable. She is. Ho's voice warmed as he continued. When our parents died, I was only 16, was 12. Everyone said we should go to separate homes, that I was too young to take care of her, but I refused. I worked 3 jobs. I did not sleep some nights, whatever it took to keep us together. That must have been difficult. It was the hardest thing I ever did, but also the best. Ho looked at. Do you understand what that means? To have someone who is yours, completely yours, and to be theirs completely. Someone you would die for, kill for, burn the entire universe for. Was quiet for a moment. They do not have family bonds like humans do. We are raised in groups. We are taught that individual attachments are inefficient. That sounds lonely. Perhaps it is. Looked at the surgical room door. I never felt lonely before. I never knew what I was missing. But watching you fight for your sister, I wonder if our way is wrong, if we have given up something important for the sake of logic. Ho said nothing, but he understood. He could not imagine a life without someone to love, someone to protect. What was the point of living if you had no one to live for? She wanted to see the stars, he said suddenly. That is why we were on that ship, had always dreamed of traveling, of seeing the galaxy. She worked for years, saving every credit, planning every detail of the trip. His jaw tightened. It was supposed to be an adventure, the best 2 months of our lives. And then the pirates came. Ho's hands clenched into fists. I could not protect her. They were too many, too fast. All I could do was hold her hand as they dragged us away. But you did protect her, said firmly. You fought in that pit. You killed monsters and warriors and survived impossible odds, all for her. That is protection, Ho, the most powerful kind. It was not enough. She is still dying. She is fighting just like you, touched his arm. And she has doctors now, good doctors with good medicine. She has a chance. Ho wanted to believe her. He wanted it so badly that it hurt, but hope was dangerous. He had learned that in the pit. Hope could make you weak. Hope could make you careless. In the pit, he said slowly, I thought about her every moment. Every time I got hit, every time I wanted to give up, I saw her face. I heard her voice. She was the reason I kept standing. I know, his voice was soft. I saw it in your eyes. When you were fighting, you were not there, not really. You were somewhere else with her. I made her a promise when they separated us. I told her I would come back. I told her I would save her. Ho's voice cracked. A promise is sacred. My father taught me that. You keep your promises no matter the cost. Your father was a wise man. He was the best man I ever knew. Ho smiled sadly. He worked in a factory. His hands were always rough, always tired. But whenever he came home, he would pick up and spin her around until she laughed. He would help me with my homework even though he could barely keep his eyes open. He gave everything for us. Everything. And you learned from him. I tried to. Ho looked at his own hands and bandaged now. When he died, I promised myself I would be like him. I would protect the way he protected us. I would never let her down. You have not let her down. You are here, she is here, together. The surgical room doors opened and a doctor stepped out. He was not, but some species Ho did not recognize. Tall and thin with large black eyes. Ho shot to his feet. How is she? Is she okay? The doctor raised his hands in a calming gesture. The surgery went well. We removed the infected tissue and administered antibiotics. She is stable. Stable, what does that mean? Is she going to live? The next 24 hours will be critical, but the doctor paused and something like a smile crossed his alien features. She is strong, remarkably strong. I have never seen a human with such will to live. I believe she will recover. Ho's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the chair, his breath coming in gasps. Relief flooded through him, so powerful it was almost painful. She is going to live, he whispered. She is going to live. You can see her soon, the doctor said. She is sleeping now, but she should wake in a few hours. Rest, human. You have done enough fighting. The doctor went back inside. Ho sat there, staring at nothing, trying to process the news. His sister was going to live. The nightmare was almost over. Sat beside him again. See, I told you, she is a fighter just like her brother. Ho laughed. It was a weak sound, half sob and half relief. She is stronger than me. She always has been. I doubt that. No, it is true. Ho wiped his eyes. When our parents died, I fell apart. I was angry and scared and lost. But she held me together. She would not let me give up. She was 12 years old and she was the one taking care of me. It sounds like you took care of each other. We did, we do. Ho looked at the surgical room door. That is what family means. You carry each other through everything. Was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke and her voice was different, softer, more personal. I envy you, she said quietly. Ho looked at her in surprise. Envy me, why? Because you have something worth fighting for, something worth dying for. His 4 eyes glistened. I have spent my whole life serving the Empire, following rules, being efficient, but I have never had what you have, that connection, that love. You could have it, everyone can have it. Perhaps, smiled sadly, but it is harder for some than others. They are taught to avoid attachment, to serve the whole, not the individual. It is difficult to unlearn. Ho reached out and took her hand. It was a strange gesture, a human showing comfort to an alien, but it felt right. You saved my sister, he said. You helped someone you did not know, risked things you did not have to risk. That is love too, Ambassador. Maybe a different kind, but it is still love. Looked at their joined hands, blue and tan, alien and human, so different yet in this moment not so different at all. Thank you, she whispered. They sat there together as the hours passed, waiting, hopping, 2 beings from different worlds connected by something simple and profound. The power of love. And when the doctors finally let Ho into his sister's room, when he sat beside her bed and held her hand and watched her eyes flutter open, stood in the doorway and watched. Saw her brother and smiled. You look terrible, she said weakly. Ho laughed, tears streaming down his face. You should see the other guys. How many? A lot. For me. For you, always for you. Squeezed his hand. Thank you, brother. Thank you for keeping your promise. Ho pressed his forehead to her hand. Always, he whispered, always. Turned away, giving them privacy. But as she walked down the corridor, she could not stop the tears that fell from her 4 eyes. Beautiful, she thought. This is what humans are. This is what makes them special. Not their strength, not their intelligence, not their technology. Their hearts. Their endless, stubborn, magnificent hearts. 3 weeks passed on the medical ship. 3 weeks of healing, of rest, of quiet moments between a brother and sister who had almost lost each other forever, grew stronger every day. The infection was gone, destroyed by medicine and her own stubborn will to live. The color returned to her cheeks. Her smile came back, bright and warm. Ho healed too, though his wounds were deeper. The cuts and breaks would become scars. The doctors said he would always walk with a slight limp, damage from one of the thornback's claws that had cut too deep. But he did not care. He was alive, nothing else mattered. Visited them often. At first it was just to check on their recovery, but slowly something else grew. A friendship, strange and unexpected, between the human siblings and the alien ambassador. Liked to ask questions. She was curious about everything, about the galaxy, about all the things she had dreamed of seeing before the pirates took those dreams away. "Tell me about your home world," she asked one evening, sitting up in her bed while Ho and sat in chairs nearby. Smiled. "Is very different from Earth. We have 3 suns, so it is never truly dark. The sky is always purple or orange or red, and the water is not blue like yours. It is silver like liquid metal." "That sounds beautiful." "It is, but also lonely." 4 eyes grew distant. "The do not gather in families like humans. We do not have this." She gestured at Ho and at the way they were always close, always touching. "We live in service to the Empire. Individual connections are seen as weakness." "That is so sad," said softly. "I did not think so before," looked at Ho. "But watching your brother fight for you, watching you both hold each other these past weeks, I have started to wonder if my people are wrong." Ho shifted in his chair. "You saved us, Ambassador. You helped us when you did not have to. That is not weakness, that is strength." "Perhaps," stood up and walked to the window looking out at the stars. "I have done things these past weeks that I never thought I would do. I made deals with criminals. I lied to my superiors. I used my position for personal reasons, not political ones." "Do you regret it?" asked. Turned back to face them. Her expression was complicated, but there was peace in it too. "No," she said, "I do not regret it. For the first time in my life I feel like I have done something truly good. Not good for the Empire, good for people. Real people with names and faces and hearts that beat." She walked back to her chair and sat down. "I have been thinking about what I will do when we return to space. I have decided to recommend changes to our child-raising practices. Small changes, allowing more family contact, encouraging bonds between individuals." "Will they listen?" Ho asked. "Probably not. They are slow to change, but I will try because of you, because of what you showed me." "What did we show you?" Looked at the siblings, at the love that radiated between them like heat from a fire. "That attachment is not weakness," she said. "That loving someone, fighting for someone, being willing to die for someone, that is the greatest strength there is." The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel 2 days later. Through the windows, Earth appeared, blue and green and beautiful. The planet hung in space like a jewel, surrounded by the tiny lights of orbital stations and ships. Pressed her face to the glass, tears in her eyes. "Home," she whispered. "We are home." Ho stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. His throat was tight with emotion. He had not been sure he would ever see this sight again. There had been moments in the pit, moments of darkness and pain, when he thought he would die on that station far from everything he loved. But he had not died, he had fought, he had survived for home. "We are home," he agreed, his voice rough. Joined them at the window. She studied the planet with curious eyes. "It is beautiful, different from but beautiful in its own way." "You should visit sometime," said. "See the oceans, the mountains, the forests." "Perhaps I will," smiled. "But first we must get you safely to the surface. I have contacted your authorities. They are expecting you." The landing was smooth. Ship touched down at a spaceport outside a city that gleamed in the morning light. A crowd was waiting for them, officials and medical staff and journalists who had heard the story of the human who fought monsters in the pit. Ho did not want to face them. He was not a hero. He was just a man who loved his sister, but squeezed his hand and smiled at him. "Together," she said, "we face everything together." So they walked down the ramp together, side by side, into the bright sunlight of home. The crowd cheered and shouted questions, but Ho barely heard them. He was too busy breathing the air of his planet, feeling the sun on his face, knowing that the nightmare was truly over. Followed them down the ramp. She was leaving too, going back to space to continue her mission and implement her new ideas, but she did not want to go without saying goodbye. Ho turned to her, and for a moment they just looked at each other. Human and survivor and savior, friends. "Thank you," Ho said. The words felt small, too small for everything she had done. "I do not know how to repay you." "You already have," touched his arm gently. "You showed me what is possible, what love can do. That is a gift beyond any payment." Stepped forward and did something that surprised everyone watching. She hugged, wrapping her arms around the tall blue alien and holding tight. "Thank you for saving my brother," she whispered. "Thank you for saving me. Thank you for everything." Stood frozen for a moment. Physical affection was not a custom. It was strange and uncomfortable and completely unfamiliar. But then slowly, she raised her arms and hugged back. "You are welcome," she said softly. "Take care of each other." They separated and looked at Ho one more time. "If you ever need anything, if you ever want to see the galaxy again, contact me. I will always help you." "We will," Ho smiled. "And if you ever want to see what human families are like, what real love looks like every day, come visit. Our home will always be open to you." "I would like that," stepped back toward her ship. "Goodbye, Ho, goodbye, live well." "Goodbye." The ambassador walked up the ramp and disappeared into her ship. The engines hummed, and the vessel rose into the sky, becoming smaller and smaller until it vanished among the clouds. Ho watched it go, feeling a strange mixture of sadness and gratitude. He had started this journey as a prisoner, a piece of property to be broken for entertainment. He had fought beasts and warriors. He had bled and suffered and nearly died. But he had also found something unexpected: a friend, an ally, someone from another species, another world, another way of life, who had seen something worth saving in two lost humans. "What are you thinking about?" asked, leaning against his shoulder. "Nothing," Ho put his arm around her. "Just how lucky we are." "Lucky?" laughed. "We got kidnapped by pirates, sold to slavers, and nearly died on a lawless station. How is that lucky?" "Because we survived, because we are together, because we found someone who helped us when no one else would." Ho looked down at his sister, at her face that was so like his own, at the eyes that held the same stubborn fire. "We are alive, and we are home. After everything, we made it home." Was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled, that bright smile he had fought so hard to see again. "You are right," she said. "We are lucky." They stood there together, brother and sister, watching the sky where ship had disappeared. The crowd around them slowly dispersed. The journalists got their stories and left. The officials finished their paperwork and departed. But Ho and stayed. They were not ready to leave yet. They were not ready to go back to normal life, to pretend that the past weeks had not happened. Ho said quietly, "In the pit, when you were fighting, were you scared?" "Yes," he did not hesitate. "Every second I was terrified." "But you kept fighting." "I had to. You needed me." Turned to face him. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was strong. "I never told you to fight. I never asked you to risk your life." "You did not have to ask." Ho touched her face gently. "You are my sister, my family. There is nothing I would not do for you. No enemy I would not face. No pain I would not endure." He smiled softly. "That is what love means. That is what family means." Tears spilled over, but she was smiling too. "I love you, brother." "I love you too, always." They embraced there in the morning light, two humans who had survived the impossible, bound together by something stronger than death. The galaxy was vast and dangerous and full of monsters, but as long as they had each other, they could face anything. Far away, traveling faster than light toward the home worlds, Ambassador sat alone in her quarters and thought about everything that had happened. She thought about the pit and the blood and the sound of a human asking for more. She thought about a brother's love and a sister's smile. She thought about the words she had whispered when she first saw Ho fight. He must be hers. She had been right. He belonged to someone. His heart had an owner. And that owner was the reason he could do impossible things, the reason he could stand when others would fall, the reason he could look death in the face and say no. Humans were strange creatures, weak bodies, short lives, fragile in so many ways. But their hearts were infinite. Smiled and looked out her window at the stars streaming past. The galaxy was changing, slowly but surely. And maybe they could change too. Maybe they could learn from the humans, learn that love was not weakness but strength. It would take time, it would not be easy, but was determined to try. Because she had seen what love could do. She had seen a man fight monsters for his sister. She had seen two siblings refuse to let go of each other even when everything was against them. And she wanted that for her people too. One day, she thought, one day we will understand. Until then, she would carry the memory of Ho and with her, a reminder of what was possible, a reminder of what truly mattered. Not power, not efficiency, not logic. Love. Just love. And as her ship carried her home, Ambassador of the Empire smiled and let herself feel something she had never felt before. Hope.